Hi, it's Dave, the previous homeowner. I just wanted to put a brief video together for you just to walk you through some of the basic things that you need to do to care for the pool. So on a daily or every other day basis, the first thing you should really be doing is making sure you're checking the skimmer basket. So the skimmer is located on this side of the pool. The cover should pull off by hand, like that. If you do have any difficulty actually getting that off, I keep a small hook right here in the plunger box. You can go ahead and just put that in the cover and pull up, and it will also do the same thing if it does get a little bit stuck, if somebody steps on it. From there, basically what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and take the skimmer basket out from inside the pool. This actually is after a couple of days, so it's been pretty good. There's not much in there, but that's good. We're going to go ahead and I just normally dump it into the back of the flower bed like that. Make sure the debris is out. That's basically it for the skimmer basket. You should do that every other day, at least check it. And then obviously if you're going to backwash the pool, and we'll talk about that later, you should probably clean that prior to backwashing the pool also. I normally backwash the pool every couple of weeks. Try to avoid it unless the water pressure is really high. I'll show you how to check that in a minute, but you should be checking your skimmer basket every other day. The other thing you can do is go ahead and give the pool a quick clean. Again, when I'm doing the basket, I will normally also go ahead and take the skimmer brush, or sorry, skimmer basket over on the fence, and I can go ahead and then just skim the surface of the pool. It doesn't really need it very often because the skimmer process will actually keep it fairly clean, but that should also be done on a every other day basis, or just before you're about to go into the pool. It's always nice just to skim off the top of the pool. And if the water line is up above the edge of where the skimmer is, then you know that you have to get some water out of the pool. So we're going to run the pump and backwash this pool after I've actually cleaned it. But on a daily, or at least every other day basis, you should actually take the skimmer basket out and just empty it and make sure it's clean of debris. And then the pool stays crystal clear for the entire summer. I never have any issues with it, never have to put any extra chemicals in there, and I have no problems with this pool whatsoever. So we're just going to put that lid back on. The second thing that I'll do on a daily basis is just grab the skimmer basket, and we're just going to go ahead and just quickly clean the top of the pool, and that's basically all I do. And again, every other day I'll do that. Once a week we'll actually clean the pool. I'll actually vacuum the pool, and I'll do that next. But let's just go ahead and skim the top of the pool, at least anyway. And that's it, really. Every couple of days, that's all you really have to do. As a matter of fact, I haven't vacuumed the pool in over a week, and yet this pool's ready to go in right now. If you wanted to go for a swim, there's nothing wrong with the water. Pool's nice and warm. We've had the heater on this morning, so it takes me every couple of days. It takes me 5 minutes, and then the pool's ready to go for the day. So that's the every other day maintenance that we do. Now, again, if you see from this perspective, you can see that the water line right now actually is too high for the pool. It's just above where the skimmer is. So what we want to do is get the water down so that the skimmer can actually clean the top of the pool. So I'm going to actually clean the pool and backwash it. We'll do that in the next step of the video. But as far as water levels are concerned, you'll notice there's a white line around the border of the pool. I normally try to keep the water up to that white line. And the best way of knowing whether you've got enough water in the pool is just to look at the top step. I try to keep the top step covered. And that's all you really need to do as far as putting water in the pool. Now, we've had lots of rain, so I haven't actually had to put the hose in the pool for almost a month now. But normally I'll put the hose in here once a week as well. And it does really depend on how often you put the cover on. We're going to set up a brand new cover for you. If you put the cover on the pool every evening after you're done using it, or when you're not using it during the daytime, you'll find that you have a lot less evaporation. If you leave the cover off like we've been doing recently, then evaporation, you'll end up having to fill the pool once a week. But we've gone an entire month without having to run the hose, especially when we're using the cover. So that's about it for our every other day maintenance with the pool. Now the final thing I do every other day is I will walk over to the back of the equipment area, and if we go back here, you can actually inspect the valve that's on the sand filter. Normally this should be between 15 and 20. If it gets to 20, and you look at the valve, it's time to backwash the pool. I'll show you how to do that also in a minute. But as long as it's between 15 and 20, it's normally okay. And after you've backwashed the pool, normally it sits exactly where it is right now. As a matter of fact, that was just backwashed recently. So the pressure gauge on the sand filter today is fine. If you'd like, you can also have a look at the salt system. This one doesn't have to be checked as often, but if you open up this panel, you'll notice that if you look on the panel here, it is showing that the salt system is generating. It's actually also showing what your salt level is. Not normally the salt level should be above 2,800. When you add your salt at the beginning of the year, just check your panel. I normally add about 4 bags at the beginning of the year, and then I never have to touch it after that. Once this is set and it's generating salt on a regular basis, you don't have to add any other chemicals or chlorine to the pool. The salt generator will actually do this automatically. It'll actually generate chlorine as a result of the salt that's in the pool. Now, if you've had a gathering and you've had a lot of people in the pool, after everybody's been in the pool, you might want to go ahead and just push it up to superchlorinate. That's not really necessary very often, but you should never have to put any additional chemicals once things are set up at the beginning of the year. And I normally take my water sample into Backyard Resorts, which are the people that actually do our pool maintenance for us. That's the company I use to open and close the pool. I'll leave their card. Once the water's been tested, you shouldn't have to put any more chemicals in there. The final thing that you might want to do, I turn the heater off every night and then turn it back on when we need it. Heater's very easy to operate. Simply on and off right here. You can turn the pool heater on, pool heater off. If you want to adjust it, the red and blue buttons adjust it up and down. We like to keep it at about 84 degrees. It's nice and comfortable. You can decide on what your preference is. We don't leave the heater on overnight, though it's not necessary. Although if you've got the cover on, you certainly can. You know, the cover will help you maintain the heat, but I normally turn it off at night and then turn it back on again in the morning. Now, in order to turn the system on and off, the power switch is directly over here. And then finally, if you want to, there's only one pool light actually that's working right now, but if you want to turn the pool light on, you're basically just plugging in the power over here and plug in here, and then there's a switch right there, and that will turn on the pool light. And that's about it though on the stuff that you need to do on a daily or every other day basis. I'll put a second video together to show you how to backwash the pool. Okay, so now we're actually going to vacuum the pool. Normally I'll do this once a week. Occasionally I'll do it during the middle of the week, but normally this is just something I do on the weekend. Now, before you actually vacuum the pool, the first thing that you should actually do is turn the heater off. We've been running the heater since lunchtime, so I'm just going to go over to the heater panel and turn the heater off. You don't want to actually be heating the water while you're actually running the pump to clean the pool. And then from there, we're just going to go set up the hose. You can see that the actual the vacuum hole is there, and the hose is actually on the fence. So I'll take the blue section. And then from there we want to make sure that the hose is actually the vacuum line in the pool. We want to make sure that the hose actually is fully extended. We don't want it sitting on top of another section of hose, because what we basically want to do is we want to make sure the hose is full of water before we actually hook it up to the pump. what I basically do in order to do that is there's a jet over here. I will actually put the hose on the jet, and that will actually fill the line up with water. We do that before we actually move over to the filter area and connect this to the actual pump system. Now, when we are actually vacuuming the pool, it's really important to make sure that we get all of the air out of this line, and you can tell you're getting the air out of the line because you'll see the vacuum head will rise, and if you can just see that over there, you can actually see the air coming out of the vacuum line. So this will normally take, 2 or 3 minutes in order for all of the air to get out of the line. Alright, so now that I've got the air out of the line, I'm going to move over to the filter basket again. And we're going to actually connect this end of the hose. And what I do is I filter area there so you can see down below. That's where I've got that connected. You can actually see now that the hose itself is it's kind of jiggling around a little bit because it's now actually starting to vacuum. So I'll put it directly into that connection right there. And we are now ready to go ahead and vacuum the pool. I normally start in the deep end and work my way to the shallow end, but you can obviously find out what works best for you. It takes me probably about 10 minutes to vacuum the pool, and I just go back and forward across both sides of the pool, and come back and actually disconnect it when I'm ready to go. And when you are vacuuming, not everything on the bottom of the pool is actually debris. Sometimes when there's stuff left underneath the winter cover and it sits in the pool over the winter, sometimes it will leave some stains. It's a 20-year-old pool liner, so there are a few stains at the bottom of the pool. But make sure you actually clean the pool before you actually have it closed. That way you won't have any new stains. But those are basically just stains at the bottom right there. So when you're done vacuuming the pool, you can go ahead and remove the hose, and we'll put that away in a second. But before we put the hose away, we have to remember to put the filler basket back in and put the cover back on. And now we're ready to go ahead and put the hose away. But that's it. Again, normally it takes me about 10 minutes once a week to go ahead and vacuum the pool. Now, the more you actually use the pool, the less you're going to have to vacuum it. Pools stay cleaner if they're used. But yeah, normally it's only once a week for me, and it's about 10 minutes. Okay, so after I vacuum the pool, the next thing that you need to check, you just come over here where the equipment is, and what you want to do is you want to check how the pressure is on a filtration system, the sand filtration system. Normally it sits at between 15 and 17. Once it gets to 20, you absolutely have to backwash the pool. And you can see it's getting close to 20 now, so we're actually going to backwash the pool. And the gauge will come down a little bit. Normally it sits between 15 and 20, so it's normal to see it at about 17. So this is slightly higher than where it would normally be. And ideally you don't want to see it above 20 on the gauge, but then you know for sure you actually have to backwash the pool. Now, I backwash the pool probably once every 3 or 4 weeks. I try not to do it every week. It's not necessary, and you got to remember every time you backwash, you're putting salt water into the sewers, and then therefore into our rivers. But more importantly, every time you backwash, you also push a little bit of salt out. So try to not backwash it too often. Again, every 3 or 4 weeks, or whenever it gets to 20. And when we are running the backwash, we really only run it for about 60 seconds to clear off the top, and I'll show you the steps in order to do the backwash, but you only have to do it every 3 or 4 weeks. Now, in order to backwash the pool, you'll notice we got the backwash hose hanging here. What we're going to do is we're going to actually feed it down through that little area of the fence, and then from there we'll pull it out to the street, because this should go all the way out to the street. You don't want to put this on your garden or on your front lawn. It's not good for your lawn. So some people will say go ahead and put it on the lawn, but you definitely don't want to do that. So I feed the hose through there, and then I'll come back and I'll actually pull that hose all the way out to the street. This is actually kind of easier to do if you've got somebody to help you, because you can have somebody on the opposite side of the fence, but Everybody's out this afternoon, so I'm going to do this on my own. So again, I'm just going to pull the hose through. You want to pull it all the way down to the street. It's everything is still wet back here, by the way. I haven't had a chance to cut the grass today because we've had a lot of rain recently, which is the reason why I'm actually backwashing the pool. Alright, so now that we've got the hose ready to go, we just walk it out. So I just walk it out like this. You want to keep the hose nice and flat. And again, you want to try to make sure there's no kinks or anything in the hose, because it can damage your hose if it's not nice and flat. So okay, so we're all ready to actually backwash the pool. So the first thing you're going to do is actually turn off the system, which is what this basically is doing right here. You're going to actually turn off all of the power to the system. From there, on the pump itself, what we want to do is we want to take this piece here and we're going to push down. We're going to turn it all the way to the bottom, and you notice that it says backwash right here. We're going to run it on backwash for about 60 seconds, and then we're going to run it on rinse until the spyglass over here runs clear. But now we can go back over. Now that it's on backwash, we can go back over to the power, turn it back on, and you can see the hose is filling up with water. Okay, so we've been running the backwash now for about a minute or two, and you can tell that through the spyglass here on the side that the water's nice and clear now. So I'm going to actually turn the pump back off again. And what we're going to do is we're going to switch it from backwash over to rinse and turn the pump back on again. And we're really only rinsing for another 20 or 30 seconds. You don't have to rinse for very long, but we just want to make sure that that spyglass is nice and clear on the rinse as well. And as long as it's nice and clear on the rinse, we can go ahead and turn everything off again. Alright, now we want to make sure all of the water's out of the hose before we start bringing it back towards the yard. So I actually walk down the hose like this, as you can see. Walk all the way down, and we'll go out front and do the same thing on the other side of the fence. So when you're actually running the hose through, by the way, make sure you actually have the hose right here underneath the fence. You don't want to have it further up, because if it gets stuck along the way, it'll actually damage the hose. Same thing, we don't really want any twists or turns in the hose. So I'm now going to walk what's left of the water out of the hose. And you notice I normally just put the hose on my driveway there. There we go. And then I can walk all the hose back up to the fence so that we can then pull the hose back up and wrap it up back over by the pump. And that's it. Backwashing is something that you do when the pressure gauge gets to about 20, or when you've got too much water in the pool. Probably every 3 or 4 weeks at most, if that. You do not have to backwash every time you vacuum the pool. Just make sure you check the pressure gauge when you're done. Okay, so we're about ready to actually turn the filtration system back on again. So we want to make sure we put it back up to the top, which is where the filter is. Now the last thing that I normally do is I normally clean the filter basket that's actually on the pump itself. Now before I do that, what we should really do is we should turn this lever over here, try to keep some of the water in that basket. You want to make sure there's water in the basket when you turn it back on again. Loosen off these two screws right here. And we're just going to go ahead and take this basket out. It's in good shape, there's not much in there, but no, go ahead and empty it out. Wash it out if you need to. That's actually pretty good. You put it back in again. And again, make sure you keep the water. You want to have water in the basket before you turn the pump back on again. If the water drains out, then just go ahead and use the bucket that I have beside the hose. I fill a little bit of water into the bucket and then go ahead and pour this back in. You want to prime the pump before you start it. But we should be good here, so you tighten this back down again. And we're good there. We want to make sure that we're on filter on top of the pump itself. So now we can go ahead and turn everything back on again. And open up the lever. And now it's going to actually prime the pump again. So it'll take the water that's in there and it'll now actually start to prime the pump. And what we're doing is, once this is running clear, we're going to check the pressure gauge. So this will actually fill up pretty quickly. We'll give you a sense of what the normal timeline would be for this. You can see it's filling up. And when you're actually checking your pump, you want to make sure there's no air in there. So we're good now. There's no air in that pump now, which is good. So now we can check the pressure gauge. And that's actually after that backwash. So you can see here it's just above 15. So that's kind of normal for the pool. Now that I've backwashed it, the pool is all ready to go. Alright, we're going to do the last thing that is necessary for your normal maintenance. So if you look down below here, you can see that we have a salt system here. This is the salt cell. Now you can see on the label itself, it says to inspect this cell every 3 months. So normally when I close the pool, I clean the cell, and therefore when you open the pool in the next spring, it's already clean and ready to go. And then halfway through the season, I normally pull this off, and I actually go ahead and run some muriatic acid or salt cell cleaner through the system so that we can go ahead and clean the salt cell. So I'll show you how to take it off, and we'll go ahead and clean it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to turn the power off. And then I'm actually going to open up the salt cell system here, and I'm going to disconnect the power. This is just to be safe. So now I've disconnected the power for the salt cell. Remember to connect that later. Now before I disconnect everything, I want to again just turn that valve over there so we don't lose all the water in the pump. And I'm going to leave you the tool that I use in order to get this off. But essentially, you wrap this around and it will get the salt cell off. So you wrap the band around the joint here. And just pull it tight. And then from there you can pull up on the lever, and then actually allows you to unhook the union here. And we'll repeat the same thing on the other side. A little harder to do on the other side because you've got to wrap it around with the wire over there, but essentially wrap the wire around, and then you can use the tool to go ahead and undo the other union. Same as the first one, you pull the wire tight, and then you can pull on this lever, and it actually loosens the union, and so you can actually get the rest of it off finger tight like that. There we go. Now, what we want to do is we want to have a look at the cell itself to see how things are going on the inside, and actually that cell looks pretty good. There's not an awful lot of buildup in there, but we'll go ahead and clean it anyway. Normally you'll see a little bit, well I can see a little bit of buildup in there, but you'll get calcium and other buildup in there from the pool. But basically, if you look inside there, that's what we're going to be cleaning. So we're going to actually use a salt cell cleaner to get that buildup off the inside of the salt cell. Okay, so now we're going to actually take the bottom of the salt cell. Actually, this is the front of the salt cell, and we have a cup here that we screw on, and that will hopefully keep all of the cleaning solutions in the salt cell won't leak out. There's an O-ring on the bottom, so you want to make sure that you tighten this up so it doesn't leak. All the way on. There we go. What we're then going to do is we're going to put this inside the bucket. We'll place it in the bucket like that. And then we're going to take some of the salt cell cleaner and we're going to actually pour it in there. So be careful not to get this on your hands because it's acid. Probably better to actually wear a pair of rubber gloves. I've done this a few times, so I'm not as concerned about it, but you want to make sure that you're protecting your hands. I put it in the bucket not only to keep it standing up, but as you can see, it starts to bubble. Now I would leave this in here for 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. Actually, I'm going to leave it for 30 today to give it a good cleaning. From there, we're going to actually rinse it out with some fresh water. And then you can actually, if you're using a clean bucket, you can put this acid or the salt cleaner back into your pool. It doesn't do the pool any harm. Probably better to do it that than pour it down a drain. You definitely don't want to pour it down the drain. So you can pour the salt cleaner directly back into the pool. Okay, we've soaked the salt system now in the cleaning solution for half an hour. So once we're done that, you're going to make sure you thoroughly rinse it, and then we're going to reinstall it onto the pump. Okay, so we're going to finger tighten the two unions back on again. Get them as tight as we can by hand. So when you're using the tightening band, just remember to have the band pointing in the direction that you're going to actually want to apply pressure. So I want to tighten now, so I'm actually, instead of loosening, I'm tightening. So I'm now pointing the band counterclockwise, and you can see I'm able to go ahead and use the tool to tighten that nice and tight. Alright, and now we should be ready to open up the valves and turn everything back on again. Okay, final step before we're turning things on. Don't forget to remember to plug in the salt system. So you want to plug the cell back in, back into the control panel. That's good. We also want to open up our valve. And finally, we can close this up. Now we're ready to turn the system back on again. As the system is filling, what you're really checking for, you want to make sure that there are no leaks underneath either of the unions. You want to keep that keep the pump running and make sure that you don't see any leaks along the way. But we're looking good here, so that's it. We're ready to go. We're done.